The whole Liam Kumar Day effect, not really happening.
Nigel couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I rang up Mendenhall, he said he could make it.
Don't think this whole Phil, credit to the guy, he always manages to do well what he has, but he is a shocking personality. You guys got a trophy? No.
It was pre-event.
No, my life from Rashad Mendenhall.
Right, you go. I'm a tag, Jack! I'm a fucking tag!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the LOC Report, and that tank's particular Jaguars will be in London this weekend, as will Chris will not be, but we're happy to have Chris here, of course. How's it going, Chris?
Indeed, I'm thrilled to be here. That's it, after seemingly a busy week this week. I don't know what it is. It's late October, it's strange, it shouldn't be this way, but it is. So, yes,
yeah.
We're packing it all in today, which is exactly how we like it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Looking forward to going through what is sure to be another interesting week.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's always an interesting week in the NFL now. So we've got some interesting trades that happened in the NFL, so to speak, in the recent week. There was a lot of injuries last week as well. We'll cover all that. And for you, as you say, it's nice to be busy because you have a good end of the year lined up into the first half of next year. So the busier you are, the quicker that goes, and the closer you get to that, so to speak.
That's true. I got to make it there in one piece.
Exactly. And on the route to that, of course, is week 7 in the LOC season. So we'll go ahead and start recapping that right now with last week's marquee matchup. It was the Father-Son Bowl in Week 7 of the 2022 LOC season. This pitted 4-2 teams against each other, both in the hunt for playoff spots. Gridiron Gang were top of the division at the start of this game. Ben Necessity's looking to keep up in theirs. But the Stubbs Jr. took the win in this one over the Stubbs Senior to the tune of 98 to 75. Looking down the lineups, no Josh Allen for Gridiron Gang, no problem, as Jamie Garoppolo comes in and puts up 20 points. He was also supported by Travis Kelce, who got 10, Joe Mixon, who got 15, and Kenneth Walker, who exploded for 29 points on the route to that 98 points. On the other side of the board for Ben Necessities, Lamar Jackson didn't do a very good Josh Allen impression himself. He only got 11 points. And indeed, only Austin Eckler with 24, Damian Pierce with 12, and Greg Zerline, the kicker, with 12. Went over 10 points. Even that, only just over 5.3 was the highest remaining player on Ben Necessities' team. So a bit of a disappointing outing for them. 75 points on the day. So Gridiron Gang moved to 5-2, winning 3 on the trot. Ben Necessities dropped 1. They fall to 4-3 in the history of this matchup all time. Gridiron Gang are now 8-14, I believe, against Ben Necessities. Yeah, that is the correct record. So the Father-Son matchup, Father-Son Bowl, didn't quite live up to the billing of the two high-scoring teams facing off against each other. One delivered in that regard, but Ben Necessities, my dad's team, definitely had a bit of a disappointing day.
Yeah, definitely. And we did say last week that there would be we thought it would be a matchup Lamar would thrive in the sense that because they would kind of bottle up the run perhaps, and he'd have to throw a bit more than that it could be exciting, and actually it turned out completely differently to what we thought. His rushing yards on the day actually salvaged his fantasy day because 120 yards, no touchdowns is a poor outing for Lamar and the Baltimore Ravens. But,
I think he only attempted something ridiculous like I'll have to look it up now and see what the exact figure was, but it was something ridiculous like 12 or 16 passes he attempted. It was just, as you say, a very strange one.
Very strange. And that just kind of set the tone for the day, really, for Ben Necessity. We've seen them go big in weeks gone by, but that's it. Godwin and Fournette couldn't quite get it going. Obviously, that Tampa offense is in all sorts of chaos as it currently stands. Donald Mooney put up an all right yardage day, but against that really reasonably stout New England defense. But at the same time, it was a 33-point win. You'd expect a little bit more, maybe. But Eckler and Pierce, underlining the foundation there, so they're always going to get value from those guys.
Yeah.
Greg Zerline, the kicker, as well. But on your side, you can be very happy with the fact that Jimmy G turns up for you on the day. Kelce puts up another solid day. Lazard unfortunately goes down, but again, before he's put up some decent yards. And then Mixon and Kenneth Walker, who is the highest, I suppose, waiver pickup we've ever seen in terms of budget used, and every bit the value of this point, give or take. So really impressive. Of course, that is near enough the difference. A few points there, a few points for Jimmy G is the difference between the two teams. But, it's a bold call, picking him up off the waivers with that extortionate amount of budget has got you over the line. And fair play. That's, I would say, good GMing.
Yeah, thank you very much. The first couple of weeks he has been astronomically good. Obviously, we'll see how far he goes along. But yeah, between him, Mixon, and to a lesser extent, obviously Brian Robinson there chipping in with the 9 points as well. I mean, it was Endrum against Endrum, and as you say, they largely kind of offset each other. I had slightly more across the three running backs. Jimmy G stepping in, and as you say, Lazard going down injured, just costing him the day. And I don't know what all these teams worrying about streaming a quarterback. What are they doing? It's easy.
Indeed.
Jimmy G was out there. I picked him up.
It's easy when you pick a quarterback that's going to be with in a team, or at least in a matchup with plenty of offense. I know they got blown out of the water, but there was still plenty of offense in the game. So, yeah, plenty of opportunity for Jimmy G to score. Obviously, did so despite being heavy losers. But yeah, that's it. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely. And going to the picks, and there was a lock in this game as well. So we both picked bare necessities to win this one. I locked my dad. Oh, sweet kiss of death, how you have returned at the right time. That's your second 6-0 week out with the bathwater straight away. But that's okay, because you'll always have week 6. So.
People be speculating, and people think I know more than I do. So.
Yeah, gotta temper it out a bit. We'll go on to our next game then. Bedadnaders took on Napolitans in our next game in week 7. Bedadnaders is a team that turned around their poor start of the season, entered this one 3-3. Meanwhile, Napolitans dropping 3 on the trot, looking to get their season back on the right side of things, but unfortunately they have extended that 3 to a 4 as they drop this one 113 to 83. We'll start with the Detonators. Geno Smith is the quarterback for this team now, and he got 17 points on the day, which is okay. But Chris Olave with 11, Derrick Henry with 14, Travis Etienne with 18, Breece Hall before he went down with that season-ending ACL injury with 13, and then the special teams as well. Daniel Carlson with 10, and Cowboys D with 24, en route to probably one of the most complete, well-rounded team. 113 points you will see. On the other side of the board for Napolitans, Derek Carr did not smash in what profiled to be a very good matchup. He only got 15 points. And what else? Christian Kirky got 10. Ramondre Stevenson got 16, and the Dolphins D got 13, but obviously not enough. That 83 points to contend with Bedadnaders. So Bedadnaders moved to 4-3, keeping up in the playoff race. Napolitans fall to 2-5. And the history of this matchup all time, I believe Bedadnaders got their first win. They did against Napolitans, so the record is now 1-2 in favour of Napolitans. And 4 games on the trot now for Napolitans. You said probably about a month ago now, it's a bit of a weird build, this team, and that's kind of shown through, I guess you would say, in the last 4 games, unfortunately for Dave.
Unfortunately so, yes. And you're quite right. I think without Jalen Hurts and that team, the sort of, specialty, pizzazz, X Factor, whatever you want, whichever way you want to go about it, isn't quite there. And yes, that's it. In a team that's, it's got one major superstar in Tyreek Hill, but I would say other than that, name value alone, you are relying on guys who are on the periphery perhaps, or at least on teams that are on the periphery as well. So yeah, difficult. But I would say a solid week, if not spectacular. Again, a little bit bereft of touchdowns in there. Yeah. And I think with a couple more of those, especially from the receivers, then we're going to see much more solid weeks. But you look at the bench, and Juju turned up on the week that you perhaps needed him. But that's it. The shoots are there. It's a 17-point and an 18-point week. They're now on a bye. They come back with a couple of juicy matchups against Tennessee and Jacksonville. So, yeah, I'm looking to see him play a bit more of a role in that team going forward.
He also benefits with getting T. Higgins, obviously figures to be the benefactor of the news with Jamar Chase and his hip. So as you say, rumours that Damian Harris could potentially be traded would help Stevenson. So as you say, I think Dave's team's been a pretty steady team, albeit it's been kind of getting there a bit weirdly. But like you say, there is an opportunity to take a step forward here for Dave.
Yeah, that's it. There's absolutely no doubt about that. So yeah, that's it. There's plenty to be positive about. But I mean, much for Ollie to be positive about. Obviously, he had a terrible start, but yeah, as we've seen in years gone by, say some of these guys have grown into their roles over the course of the year. You look at Olave, you look at Etienne, Breece Hall, unfortunately, before he went down, and unfortunately now on IR for the rest of the season. Well, the rest of the season, the majority of the rest of our season anyway. But that's it. Again, not a problem because Michael Carter's there on the bench, and that's it. DeAndre Hopkins comes back this week, or was back last week, but will come back into the team this week as a result. So yeah, much to be positive about. But yeah, you can't complain with the fact that when you've got QB scoring and also your defense scoring every week, kind of QB all around QB numbers, that's really positive. And yeah, that injury room is firing all cylinders, as it were. So yes, very good result for it in a week that we once again did see scoring down for most teams. Managed to find a way. So yes, it's an impressive win, especially there where he's only got a touchdown from Hall and Etienne and not from the three guys at the top. So yeah, the Geno Smith experiment. I'm interested in seeing how that's going to last the test. To see if that really does to propel him or leave him behind. But I think that's much better than the Russell Wilson experiment, which clearly doesn't work for him or indeed the Broncos or anybody really.
No, yeah.
So yeah, that's it. Big score. It's a board you like to see, all in double figures apart from one. And Ollie will be really impressed to see how the rest of the season goes, especially now as he's giving himself insurance options on his bench. Yeah,
no, completely. And you say about Geno Smith, how long can it last? Well, as everyone predicted, the only matchup this week that features two winning teams in the NFL is between the Giants and the Seahawks. Everyone saw that one coming right at this point of the year. So, I mean, it's week 8 now, and they're still both playing very well. So, yeah, like you say, we'll find out just how long it will last. But I guess he's got that, he's only on a 1-year contract for about $1 million, I believe. So he's got all the incentive in the world to finish up with a good year. And, yeah, just going back to Breece Hall, as you obviously mentioned, yeah, unfortunate that Ollie loses him. He does have Michael Carter on the bench, so there's potential that he could step in and at least partially fill the gap vacated by Breece Hall. But as we'll come on to a bit later when it's relevant, we'll talk more about that. In terms of the pick'em with this one, we both picked Napolitans, so we start off 0-2 for the pick'ems this week. That's just exactly how we thought it would happen after
going well.
Yeah. But we'll go on to the next game where we hopefully got this one right. Tom's Tyrants took on Ixan here in week 7. It was the 2-0 teams because Ixan was entering this one 6-0. Meanwhile, Tom's Tyrants was entering 0-6, so a team looking to avoid their first loss and another looking to pick up their first win. And oh boy, it was a close one. My goodness, it would have been poetic if it came off, but Ixan just about survived Tom's Tyrants in a nail-biting 83-82 point matchup. Ixan just about take the win. Patrick Mahomes, he has a large thank you note to write him with the 32 points, which largely got him there because only Justin Tucker and the special teams, Ravens defense, got them above 10 points. Tucker 13 and the Ravens D 14 points. On the other side of the board for Tom's Tyrants, Tom will be cursing Tom Brady and Mike Evans for that drop touchdown right at the start of the Panthers game because that would have put this game in beyond doubt really. But as it happens, Brady only got 12 on the day, Evans got 10. Raheem Mostert turned up with a nice 17 and the Cardinals D as well doing their part on Thursday Night Football with 18 points, but one that once again has just about slipped through Tom's Tyrants' fingers. But amazingly, they are still in the game, which we'll see in a little bit. But Ixan take this one. They march to 7-0. And the history of this one all time, Ixan are now 12-8 all time against Tom's Tyrants. Oh boy, Tom, you got to feel for him in this one. Like, what does he have to do?
Well, exactly, absolutely rotten luck, and the curse of Rondale Moore again. Rondale Moore has been no matter what team he gets put on. No matter where he goes, he makes teams lose.
And a peek behind the curtain here. Obviously, this was the Thursday night game. Tom did pick up Rashad Bateman, I think, on the Friday or the Saturday after Ollie Gardner surprisingly dropped him. Had he known he was getting, he would have had him. He would have absolutely played him over Rondale Moore, which would only just about have given him the 1.1 points he needed, but it would have been the difference. And unfortunately, that's how close it was for Tom.
Yeah, you can't knock it. Unfortunately, though, it is Tom Brady and Mike Evans and that Tampa offense again that's let him down. It's very disappointing. I know that he's got plenty going on in his life as Tom Brady. I've certainly seen that today.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't help but think that his mind isn't quite on the game right now. And yeah, just from a fantasy perspective, it is a bit of a train wreck. Jonathan Taylor pickup as well. Yeah, we saw him put big numbers up, albeit in the second half of last season when he was kind of unleashed to do the heavy lifting. The Colts are a bit of a mess as well, and I have to say, I think they're going to lean more on him, especially now they've benched Matt Ryan for the season. So maybe there's a step forward there. But yes, the unlikeliest of heroes, Raheem Mostert nearly got there, and the Cardinals did ironically nearly put Ben into the L this week. But you have to look on the other side and go, it's a disappointing week for Ben. I mean, this is the absolute possible. Well, I know the absolute flaw, but it's going to be very close to where this team is.
Mm-hmm.
But Patrick Mahomes plus a few ragtag bunch, and I mean, so that is a ragtag bunch this week. We were worried that the Deebo Samuel and the Christian McCaffrey thing wouldn't work out, and obviously they kind of ate each other's production, perhaps.
Yeah.
Albeit in a blowout loss. Deebo is going to be. It's touch and go for the weekend, so we'll see what McCaffrey can do with a heavy workload, or at least a heavier workload in a week's worth of practice time. But yeah, it was very fortunate. Bearing in mind that you only need a yard going into Monday night, and you've got an ideal situation to find yourself in, perhaps being Tom in that instance. But yeah, that's it. Ben's riding Patrick Mahomes. We've seen teams do this in the past, and it's worked out well. So yeah. It's a lucky one this week, but it doesn't matter at the end of the season. Lucky doesn't matter. It's it. The win's chalked up and off he goes.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And like we kind of said in previous weeks, the exam was kind of on a gradual down. You felt just with the kind of players they have, and the situation's developing around some of their other players. Like you said with McCaffrey, look, he'll no doubt have better weeks because he was only playing a complement of snaps. But exactly like we said last week, you wonder if the overall upside between him and Samuel is now capped slightly versus when they were on separate teams. It's a fair question. Yeah, as you say, Amari Cooper's been a solid guy for Ben, but he's probably nothing more than that. Obviously, Melvin Gordon, very dicey play at the moment, and then you look to the bench and there's not much to turn to either. Antonio Gibson's been pretty good, to be fair, since he's kind of had the lead role taken off of him. It's actually freed him up a bit, but as you say, this is still kind of the lower end of what you'd expect for Ben's team. And meanwhile, for Tom's team, yeah, it's rough, but once again, the shoots of optimism. I don't think 0-7 really is a fair reflection of his team so far. There have been a handful of games that just haven't gone right, or there's been a player on the bench that would have been the difference, and it only takes a few of those to go that way, and you end up at that 0-7 record. And as we'll see in a bit, the division, it's very much still up for grabs. So, there's definitely hope there for Tom Starnes. We'll go on to the next game now. Then, apologies for the podcast dog. What were they? Cuphead last week. Cuphead took on Bucking the Trend after winning 2 straight, the first 2 of the season against Bucking the Trend. It started 4-2. It profiled to be a fairly good game. You'd have been wrong if you thought that, because this one was on a fairly low week of scoring where only 2 teams went over 100. This was among the worst. 78-44 in favour of Bucking the Trend. The Gypsy King lives, it would seem. Tua Tagovailoa got 18 points for Bucking the Trend. Saquon Barkley got 14. Josh Jacobs erupted for much of the 78 with 34 points, and Will Lutz got 11. He had 2 donuts in Romeo Dobbs and Michael Gallup, and nearly another donut with Amon Ross St. Brown, who only got 4 yards. Rounded out by the Bucks D, who got a nice 2. So there you go. That's the 78 points for Bucking the Trend that avoided the loss for them. For Ross's team, I think 44 points is the lowest total we've seen so far this season. Not uncommon, we do occasionally see these. Dak Prescott in his return only got 14 points with Kirk Cousins on a bye. David Montgomery got 12. No other player over 10 points there for Ross. So yeah, definitely a week to forget. Certainly after 2 good weeks as well. So he now sits at 2-5. Bucking the Trend moved to 5-2, and the history of this matchup all time. Let's see here. Ross's team. Where's Ross's team on here? Ross is now 1-3 all time against Mike. And just going back to the other game. So I did pick I did pick Tom, and you picked Ben. So you're on the board. I'm sitting on 0-3 right now.
Yeah.
But it was a close one. But anyway, this game was not close, but it was boring.
It was extremely boring. And I think when you can effectively carry 3 players and still win, it tells you all you need to know about this game. Yeah, Mike didn't lose it, but he could very, very well have done so, if not for the power of Josh Jacobs there, powering through for his 3 touchdowns. And he's 33.5 points. I mean, yeah, it's a bit of a desperate situation for Mike at the moment because you look down on his bench and there ain't a great deal that's there either. You've got a very banged up Keenan Allen. You got Deontay Johnson in a bit of a rancid offense. DeAndre Swift, who's perennially injured, and Clyde with a role that no one can quite define. So yeah, it's not great. It's certainly not so showing the early season form, but he is making the wins count somehow. There isn't a great deal more to say about that. I mean, Tua's been solid enough, and Barkley and Jacobs have done their thing. Aside from that, there is nothing to write home about.
No.
Though he does claim that Will Lutz is his MVP for the season, so we've got two teams in Ben's team, Mike's team, who are reliant on kickers alone. As for Rossity, well, what can you really say about a 44-point week? Is there anything positive to say?
Let's take a look at his bench in the first instance. He was in a bit of a bye week jam. Cooper Kupp and Gabe Davis, definitely two of his better players on the bye. Kirk Cousins as well, you could argue, who has been the starting quarterback without Dak, and this was obviously Dak's first game back. And Mark Andrews getting injured, and DK Metcalf as well, both getting injured in the game as well. So that doesn't completely write it away, like you say, Chris, because 44 is still a very low score, factoring those things, but there is a good reason Ross was down there this week.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, I feel for when these kind of weeks happen, but there was enough talent on there to try and salvage the week, and not to get more than 50 with those guys. Albeit, I do appreciate you playing Hunter Henry, which is a bit weird. And you two guys go down, and Rob Woods has a weird day because they don't throw, and Dak back against Detroit just hands the ball off all the time.
Yeah.
So it's a lot didn't go his way, but we've seen weeks where he's the previous two were very good, and we know what that team's about. So, or at least when it's on its day. So, yeah, fold the page and carry on to next week.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll do that with the game here because, as you said, I don't think we really need to say any more on this one, other than we both did pick bucking the trend, so at least we got the pick right in this one.
That'll do.
It will do indeed. So we'll go on to the next game then, which was a more interesting game. Gold took on Forge Flyers here. Forge Flyers looking to keep up and put, if a Gridiron Gang lost, potentially retake the Portsmouth division lead. That didn't happen versus Gold, who have dropped 2 in a row in this one. They were struggling to keep up in the Winchester division, which they continued to do as they dropped their third one in a row, moving to 2-5, 76-71, with Forge Flyers moving to 5-2, tied for the lead in the Portsmouth division. Looking down the lineups for Forge Flyers, Kyler Murray got 18 points on Thursday Night Football. Evan Kamara got 11 also on Thursday Night Football. Nick Chubb got 17. Graham Gano got 11. And that got them to the 76, which was enough to avoid the loss here. We'll call it a win. It was close enough. It was an interesting game. Meanwhile, for Gold, the quarterback struggles continue, and most definitely cost them in this one as Jared Goff fumbled his way to 1.5 points. Tyler Boyd with 22 and Aaron Jones with 20 and Robbie Gold with 14 did their best to mitigate that, but not much you can do when your quarterback's going to do that. Gold lose this one. The history of this matchup all time now. Forge Flyers are 5-3 against Gold, and we both picked you in this one, Chris, so we're making up for it on the latter half of the docket here.
Well, I'm glad that we're getting something right. The fumble kings of Gold this week. I don't think I've seen that many fumbles on one team for some time. But it's unfortunate what cost them the game in the end because, had it not been for those fumbles, he would have beaten the 70.
Yes.
Very tepid 75 points, may I add as well, that my team put up on the other side. But you can see what the issues are. Receiver is a problem. And finding that extra flex guy is always the hunt at the moment. So hopefully one of the bench will get traded, and then we can play whoever it might be who gets traded. Hopefully someone who starts them going forward, but you never know. There's going to be a stream option every week, which is going to be fun. As for Gold, it's not just the fumbles, it is the quarterback this week. The quarterback putting up 1.5 points has absolutely lost in the game. You could have put pretty much anybody else in there, I think, and they would have done okay.
Yeah.
Skill position wise, actually, it's a pretty good week for him. Tyler Boyd obviously heard what we said last week and then put on a show. Aaron Jones as well. So yeah, so those two guys, you can't really get anything more of that. You can't be more pleased with those two. But yeah, to have two guys put up those numbers and not win a week is particularly difficult. So yeah, I feel for him. It was definitely one for the taking there. My team was very weak this last week, and yeah, a lot more improvement needs to be made, I think, to make a serious run at anything. But yes, that's it. UR Gold has better times around the corner, I think, but unfortunately, he does struggle with having guys in particularly bad offenses, no matter where they are.
Yeah, no, yeah, completely. And I like you said, I think better days are ahead for both of these teams. I think your team just had a bit of a down week in general. You've got a solid core, which you say, and then you're a good enough coach that you can usually plug someone in there and get some additional points here and there to get you where you need to be. And as you say, for UR Gold, it's really not as bad as it looks. Kind of like with Tom's Torrance, you factor in that he's got Dalvin Cook on a bye on the day. George Kittle finally looks like he might be back to his normal form. Devin Duvernay as well, who is I think actually a useful player for fantasy purposes this year as well. So it's definitely not as bad as it seems. He just needs to get that quarterback position sorted, or at least get the stream right each week, and he'll be absolutely fine. And in a division that is, as I say again, very much still up for grabs in the Winchester division. So we'll go on to our last game of the week then. Here we go. Palestine took on the Dream Team here. It was a battle of two teams with a losing record, or a 500 or below record entering this one, with Palestine at 3-3 sitting atop the Winchester division, and the Dream Team at 2-4 looking to keep up in the Portsmouth division. And that is exactly what they did, as they went for the league high weekly score in week 7, 129 points to Palestine's 89. Starting with the Dream Team, Joe Burrow and Jamal Chase absolutely exploded and drove pretty much, more than half the points of their points, Burrow got 45 and Jamal Chase got 25. Elsewhere, DJ Moore got 13. PJ Walker's done wonders for him. Mike Williams, before getting injured with the high ankle sprain, got 15. Tony Pollard got 11. Jerry Judy got 10. So yeah, a real good solid day all across the board for the Dream Team en route to that 129. On the other side of the board for Palestine, certainly not a bad week, especially when you look at scores across the league elsewhere. Just unfortunate to face Viv, because Justin Herbert got 21 points. Devontae Adams got 10, Ezekiel Elliott got 18, Benjamin got 19 in the Thursday night football game, and the Packers D got 10. So solid 89, but yeah, just not enough to see off the Dream Team. The history of this matchup all time. Let's see here. Where's Pakistan? They're down here. Pat is now 2-9 all time against the Dream Team, so really one of his bogey teams. And I mean, we kind of said how Viv had a pretty poor start of the season. It was going to be quite volatile. They've certainly had a very good few weeks of late, but yeah, you have to wonder how many more of those will we now see, as they've suddenly become very injured.
Yes, indeed, yeah, and especially you're quite right with Chase and Williams going down. They're kind of big game players. Yes, it's very difficult. We saw on the bench though Edwards and Henderson. Well, that's all very well, but both of those are very injury prone as well, and both carrying stuff. So yes, perhaps we're going to see a bit more of a running back heavy view from Viv going forward. Obviously, we see a lot of wide receivers at the moment, but this is exactly the type of thing we see with this team. Very boom and bust. This is particularly boom this week. Yes, Joe Burrow's had a great day against Atlanta. PJ Walker, we must forget, when he was playing XFL football, he was excellent. He was streets ahead of every other quarterback in that league.
Don't forget about Taylor Heineke.
That's it. Well, even him. That's it. Man. So but Taylor Heineke, fair enough. That's his job to lose now. But yeah, I mean, much the same. So they've got nothing to lose in Carolina. They can go out and be bold. And DJ Moore's going to be the beneficiary. And if that's the case going forward, that's exactly the timing that he needs. I said we did laugh about the Tony Pollard thing last week. It turns out that he's going to be used a lot more than we thought. And that's without a touchdown, nearly 11 points. And yeah, it puts up a great score. I know Burrow's put up 45 points. And, that is huge. So yeah, that's not happening every week, but for as long as it does, that's it. That's that. I'm not going to play Atlanta every week, obviously, but yeah, the talent's certainly there to be able to exploit that. On the other side, yes, this was a win for Pat against all but 3 teams. particularly disappointing, I suppose, if you're him. So Ezekiel Elliott was good on the day, but goes down. So actually, we're talking about indirect things. Tony Pollard's only going to improve from that.
Yeah.
But there's still a few question marks. Obviously, Devontae Adams is extremely talented, but it's just being held back by offense, is he not? Pierce is going to be week to week. AJ Dillon looks like he's very much the second there.
Yeah.
And Benjamin will only work until James Conner comes back, or indeed another running back for them. So yeah, he won't get it every week, but for what he does, he's going to be extremely useful to have. And we all know Justin Herbert's ability. So yeah, there's not a great deal. Obviously behind that, we have Justin Jefferson on the bench, and we expect him to come back in for either Dillon or one of the receivers, or Dillon or Pierce next week, or I guess Elliott if he's not playing.
Devontae Smith's probably going to come in as well. You would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. So now that they're a bit banged up, so yeah, that all of a sudden doesn't look quite so good, but there's enough there to keep them going. But yeah, it's a big win for Viv this week on the back of some key performances from big play guys. But as you quite rightly say, those big play guys, they ain't turning out for him this week.
No, yeah, absolutely not. So yeah, we also both got this one wrong because you locked Pat. I picked Pat as well. So I thought you finished the week poorly there. So I'm now 35-32 all time. You, Chris, you're 34-20 on the pick'em. Locks wise, 5-7 for me and 6-4 for you. So hopefully we'll have a better week this week.
Indeed.
So yeah, but we'll go on to forget about how bad we are at picking games. We'll go on to the news now. Oh, if I mute my mic. Yep, so kind of mentioned there as we were going along, there are obviously a fair amount of injuries there, so we'll start for the top with Breece Hall. He's torn his ACL for the Detonators, so we kind of covered that off as we were going through the game. Jamal Chase as well, he has a hip injury. It's unclear how long he's going to miss. Initial report is 4 to 6. Some thinking it could potentially be, on the short end of that or even less, or it could potentially be something that costs him even more. It's not really known at the moment. DK Metcalf as well, so he suffered a patellar tendon injury. It's not quite clear what kind of injury, but it's to that particular part of his body, and again, not really clear how long he's going to miss. Sounds like he's going to miss at least this week. Chris, you mentioned there about Ezekiel Elliott. He's got a knee injury it sounds like definitely going to keep him out for this week, potentially next week as well. I think they may have their bye coming up at week 10 as well, so it's not going to be a mega long-term one, but certainly one to for the next couple of weeks. And then Mike Williams on a bye this week, but yeah, he did suffer that high ankle sprain again. We covered that with Viv's team. He's going to probably miss at least 3 to 4 weeks by the sounds of things. So yeah, it was quite a busy week in terms of injuries last week, wasn't it, Chris? And pretty much all those players were absolutely key to each of their teams.
Bloodbath, absolute bloodbath. So yes, not ideal, but you have to say that by this point in the season, it's difficult to replace those guys, isn't it? So
yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, completely. Normally, after an injury week like that, you would see some notable moves on the waiver wire. You mentioned it about my game, obviously, with Kenneth Walker when Rashad Penny went down. But none of these teams, they either the alternative was already kind of owned, so to speak, or there isn't really a direct, replacement that's going to step in and completely fill the shoes of those guys. So when we talk about transactions, only two that I picked out that were really notable this week. Number one was, I suppose, first it involved the drop with my team, Gridiron Gang, dropping James Robinson after he put up a donut in his game on Sunday, then proceeds to get traded to the Jets in real life, and on the waiver wire, Tom's Tyrants then adds him for Rondale Moore for $23, which, as I put in the chat as well, that was tied. I was trying to get him back after that happened because the trade happened the day after I dropped him. Of course I did. But Tom wins on the tiebreaker, obviously, with the record. So what do you make of this addition, Chris?
Yeah, obviously we see the Jets go very run heavy recently. I think Michael Carter stands to gain most of the work early doors, but we've seen James Robinson be an excellent addition to the Jags. So he's obviously extremely talented. So it's going to take him a little bit of the time to get integrated with that offense. I think it's going to be used, in the next couple of weeks going forward. And yeah, that's it. I think that's a nice pickup for a team that needs a little bit of a boost.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other one I picked up on this week, it involves your team, Chris, and it involves another NFL trade because Kadarius Toney got traded from the Giants to the Chiefs. And you were very quick on the waiver wire with this one, Chris. You then added him and dropped Allen Robinson to get him on board. So what do you make of this one, Chris?
I need a receiver. I hope he plays. I love Kadarius Toney, man. He's explosive. He's electric. He's unfortunately been let down by his offense. He's been playing for the Giants, but now he's with the Chiefs. With that offense, with that high-powered Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid offense, man, I'm still looking forward to that. I hope that he's the answer to my prayers when it comes to receiver. So yeah, he's going to get a bit of time to get integrated, but a couple of weeks' time, hit the ground running and go from there. So I want to buy this week. Fingers crossed next week. Hopefully he gets a bit more usage. But we've seen Juju move into the definitely the number one role there behind Kelsey, of course. But it only gives him something completely different. And yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's kind of, athleticism-wise, probably as close to Tyreek Hill as anyone would be on that roster right now. Obviously, Mecole Hardman's a guy they've had in the building for a few years who, at one point, was kind of primed to take over that role, but obviously he just hasn't run with it. So, as you say, Kadarius Toney, if he can get up to speed with the offense and stay healthy, yeah, it could potentially be quite a game changer for them and also potentially your team. So that was the only two transactions I picked out last week. Just talking about standings, milestones and stats then. So we'll start off with the standings. Southampton division, Ixan do remain atop here with the perfect 7-0 record, 2 games ahead of the next closest competitor in the division, which is bucking the trend of 5-2, followed by Benessess. Despite still being the highest scoring team, they now sit at 4-3. And Neapolitans there running out the bottom at 2-5, facing a very uphill battle already to make the playoffs, even though we're only about halfway through here. Looking, and they have been scored on a ton as well, by the way. They have conceded the most points out of anyone, 752. There was only one other team above 700, so that just goes to show how difficult it has been for Dave. The Portsmouth division then, so Gridiron Gang still top of this one, 5-2 on points, second highest scoring points in the league. Just ahead of you, Chris, in division-wise. Anyway, you're at 4-2 as well. Then we've got the Detonators hot on the heels with 4-3, and then Viv as well trying to make a late comeback to 3-4 at the bottom there. And Viv's also caught up quite a bit in terms of the high scoring points. He's one of the 3 teams over 700 points, only 10 points behind me. And 20 points behind my dad. And then we go to the awkward cousin of the LOC, the Winchester division, where Pakistan is leading this up at 3-4 currently, followed by 2-5 teams in Call of Duty, which is Ross's team this week, and you are gold. And then Tom's Tyrants absolutely still in the race, potentially 0-7, because they are only actually 3 games behind in the division. So yeah, it's still very much all to play for there. If the playoffs were to end today, it would obviously be Ixan, Gridiron Gang and Pakistan going through, followed by, I think your team would be the traditional wildcard, Chris, and then my dad's team would be the points forward wildcard. Looking at the breakdown, so I'm now at the top of this, but it's a pretty close contest really all the way down to about 5th place. So I'm at the top 54-23, followed by Benessess at 51-26. And then you've got the Dream Team Ixan Detonators not far behind. Then you've got the middle ground, which are all kind of around 500. Again, you get to the bottom of this. Tom's Tyrants and Euro Gold at the bottom here, not entirely surprising. But Tom's Tyrants, despite being 0-7, actually not bottom of this category now after last week. Just does go to show that their last week was okay, certainly compared to everyone else. So you are gold following up in the bottom here. We then look at the coach ranking. Nothing's really moved with this one, so I won't go too into detail with that one this week. So that's everything there. In terms of milestones, only one. So my dad has now notched his 90th career loss. So there you go. Make of that what you will. No trade block players at the moment. Check out the power rankings when they land. They will no doubt come out Sunday, as Tom has done a good job of keeping up with those despite the fantasy hardships he has faced. So we will go on to debate corner then. So we'll see where John is, if he can usher us into the corner.
Order, 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 order.
The extended edition of John this week, but it's okay. Because, yeah, this is one I've been saving up for a few weeks now, because each week there's been one that's kind of come to mind in the given week, and it's overtaken it in interest, I suppose. But no, this one, you're going to like it, I think, Chris. So the debate question for this week's Debate Corner is, will the winner of the Winchester division have a winning record? We have never seen a division winner have a losing record. Last year, I think the one of the divisions, Neapolitans pulled through at 7-7. I think it was. I would just double check that, but that is not a losing record. But I suppose it is neither a winning record. So, but yeah, the Debate Corner for this week. Will the Winchester division? That is correct, by the way. Last year, 7-7 for Neapolitans, which I think was the first time we've ever had a division winner do that as well. But yeah, will the Winchester division have a winning record?
Very soon they're going to run out of games, aren't they? So that's it. The record at the moment is let's have a look. Is it 3-4 for the best?
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, you give it another 3 weeks, and the answer is no. My honest answer here is that there is absolutely every chance. I don't necessarily see where it's going to come from, because all of them have definite weaknesses in their lineups for sure. Obviously, one of them's got to win against each other this week.
Yeah, we've got a few divisional games. I think we've had, it might only be 2 divisional games so far. Let me just go take a look down here. So, 1, 2, 3. There are 4 divisional games left, including week 8. Which may provide a bit more clarity, but, you know.
They are all pretty bad. So, I think the answer is yes. Yes, why not? That's it. You know, it's going to run away from these teams. I don't see these guys winning an unbelievable amount. You know, they're probably going to win 1 for every 2 that they lose. So on that basis, the answer is yes.
So yeah, so no one will have a winning record in this division. So says Chris. I have to agree. So you look, so 7 games left from week 8. Obviously, we are at the midpoint of the season now. I will just double check that, but I'm almost certain that's right. Yes, that is correct. So you look at the top, like you say, if Pakistan, they're the best shout to have a winning record out of anyone, sitting with a 3-4 record at the moment. They would have to win 4 games to get to 7-7, but that isn't a winning record. So we're saying they would have to win 5 of the last 7 games to have a winning record. I agree with you, Chris. I don't see this happening. You know, he does have 4 games against the division. That could potentially give him a few good wins here and there, but Pat's team has not been, you know, anywhere close to being a lock. They've been okay, but yeah, and as you say, you know, everyone else they're 2-5. Tom physically cannot have a winning record, but could still definitely win this division. So that kind of says all you need to know, really. So yeah, will we see the winner have a losing record? Only time will tell on that one. So we'll go on to week 7 then, where we may be getting a step closer to the answer to that debate corner. So on the docket this week, we are going into the divisional games. So we have Gridiron Gang against Pedetnators, Ixan against Ben Necessities. Gridiron Gang against Pedetnators is a founding bowl. Ixan Ben Necessities back in the training against Neapolitans. Forge Flies against the Dream Team. Tom Tyrants against Call of Duty, which is also a founding bowl. And then you are Gold against Pakistan. Chris, are you leaning any particular way for the marquee matchup this week?
I am actually, yes, and we're going to go to the Winchester division because I think that it's definitely an interesting one to be in. I want to see Tom win a game, so let's go with Tom's Tyrant and Call of Duty.
Yeah, that's fine by me because 2 of the lowest ranked seeded teams, obviously, as you say, Tom searching for that first win, and it certainly could potentially come this week. So here we go, marquee matchup for this week. Tom Tyrants face Call of Duty in the Week 8 marquee matchup featuring 2 Winchester teams looking to make the playoffs still by way, the only way really for these guys to make the playoffs, winning that division. Tom Tyrants are 0-7, need to get the wins thick and fast for a chance of doing that. Call of Duty only 1 game behind at 2-5. but they did drop one last week after a couple of good weeks. There are some points on the board here, 31-13 in favour of Tom's Tyrants, and they are projected to have the win 89-87. So let's take a look down the lineups to see what's going on. So Tom Brady for Tom's Tyrants got 19 points. Mike Evans got 12 points. Elsewhere in the rest of the lineup, I think Brandon Ayuk has come into the lineup, as has Miles Sanders, who was on a bye last week. That is in favour of Rondale Moore, who has since been dropped. And I'm not sure who the other player left the lineup there for Tom's team is, but they are going with the 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for Call of Duty, Kirk Cousins goes back into the lineup after he comes off bye. So does Cooper Kupp coming off the bye as well, and Gabe Davis, same deal with them. So that sends Hunter Henry and DK Metcalf to the bench. So Ross is going with the 11 personnel this week, 1 running back, a tight end, and 3 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time. Let's just take a look here. It's on here somewhere. There we go. So Ross's team all time is 6-5 against Tom's team, so it's a fairly close one. Chris, do you think it will end up close, all said and done?
I think it probably will here, actually, yes. I quite like the fact that there are complementary guys on each side. Yeah, we've had two players play from each side. So we've had Brady and Evans play for Tom, combining for 31 and change, and Mark Andrews, slightly injured Mark Andrews, may I add, and Ryan Suckup putting up 13 and a bit for Ross. So that means that Ross has still got his 2 big players to play, which in this instance is definitely Kirk Cousins and Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
I absolutely love them in both of these matchups, both at home, both against teams that I think are low-key struggling, in the Cardinals and the 49ers. Again, fashion to see quite a lot of offense in both games, you'd think. Cousins is much better at home, not in prime time, as we all know. And I think that recently he's put up some decent, solid numbers. Not spectacular, but solid enough to keep him going. Whilst with Cooper Kupp, we know what he's about. And after a bye week where they're no doubt going to have a think about some of their offensive struggles, you think they're going to go through him a reasonable amount in this game. Robert Woods versus Houston is I like it. I don't necessarily like the way that the Titans are being at the moment. You look at the points they scored this year, it's not great, and they've been pretty ineffective through the air. But hey, look, things have got to change, especially in the division, especially against Houston. Always a good game. And David Montgomery versus Dallas, I don't like. But that's it. Gabe Davis, breakout player of the year, I would say, or at least in the last 3 weeks.
Yep, got to be up there.
Playing Green Bay, primetime Sunday. That's it. I don't know what we should call this. Sort of like the Freezer Bowl, or who can play in the snow, the best bowl, the uncomfortable places to play in December Bowl. Anyway, that's it. Gabe Davis has been really good recently, and Green Bay haven't been so good defensively. Plus, the Patriots are playing the Jets, and they've been running all over them recently. But again, Patriots are stout, and you can always look to them to put up reasonable numbers. Even in heavy defeats, which may or may not happen. We'll see. I like the fact that Ross' team is strong this week, but there are components of it that may fall down, and I think that could be, that David Montgomery versus Dallas. Are they really going to see a great deal of offense? I don't know. But on the other side, you can't really go wrong with the fact that Brandon Ayuk is in excellent form. Jimmy G's looking for him.
Yep.
Been a bit unlucky not to score a couple of touchdowns in the last couple of games. So I like the fact that he's being looked at. Raheem Mostert obviously went off in the last game, limited this week, but you would like to think that he's going to play. If he's playing the Lions, absolutely brilliant. Miles Sanders against Pittsburgh, much the same. And Jonathan Taylor, as we alluded to in the review of last week, Matt Ryan's been benched this week. Sam Manningham comes in. He's going to be trying to find his feet early. I think Jonathan Taylor will be a really good outlet for that. The Commanders haven't been very good, controlling games until last week, of course, when Heineke came in and did extremely well. So why they ever dropped him, I do not know.
Yeah, he came in and took command, all right.
I said, yes, he did. He did. So I'd like to see a bit more from him this week. And obviously the Titans are playing Houston, and Davis Mills, though he's done okay, I'm still not entirely convinced, and I think the Titans can get to him. So, yeah, this is going to be very close indeed. And I'm going to go with Tom's team on the strength of the fact that the offenses that he's got his players on are strong. There's always a potential for Woods and Montgomery to fall down, especially on those, especially the way that they're playing this year. Yes, Montgomery's got plenty of volume, but Khalil Herbert can't be turned down. And Mark Andrews only put up 3 points so far. So this, barring brilliant performances from Cup and Davis, which are absolutely possible, and Cousins puts up a solid number, then I think he's going to be in the game. But I do think that Tom's got just about enough player power to get across the line in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go one further. Tom came so close to it last week. Should have done it, but didn't quite. But I'm going to lock Tom's team this week. I believe that win is coming. I think this losing streak is probably approaching the longest losing streak that I set. I think where I went 0-8 before I got my first win, and I think I ended up finishing that year 3-11. So there's definitely still hope for Tom. This team is not as bad as it looks. Brady has been a part of this team's struggles, but he turned in an okay performance in this one. Like you say, he's going to need some of the other guys there to step up and get him over the line, but I believe they can, because like you say, for Ross's team, they're going to need Cup and Cousins to have good days really to bring it home for them, and then Gabe Davis as the wild card. Otherwise, I just don't see where the points are going to come from to kind of overturn Tom's advantage here. So that's where I'm going. Injury-wise, so yeah, Mostert, just a rest day for him. He's been having those with his knee and being an aging back that he is. James Robinson, unclear if he's going to play this weekend, obviously only recently being traded to the team. On Ross's side, DK Metcalf will not play with that patella tendon injury this week. Dalton Schultz tweaked his knee again. I think he'll probably miss this one too. Elsewhere, healthy in the starting lineup there. So we'll go on to the next game then, which is the other Winchester division game, and it is UR Gold against Pakistan. UR Gold take on Pakistan. Pakistan has a chance to extend their lead potentially in the Winchester division, pending the result of the other game. Meanwhile, UR Gold looking to win and make this division a full-blown open season. And the projections say they're going to do it, but Pakistan don't have a quarterback in at the moment, so I'd say the projections would go the other way if they did. But we'll start with UR Gold, who are carrying a 3-game losing streak into this one. Matthew Stafford comes into the lineup off of bye in favour of Jared Goff. What else has happened here? Dalvin Cook comes in off of his bye as well, sending Jamal Williams to the bench. I think that's the only change there. So they're going with 30 personnel this week, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for Pakistan, they did add Jimmy Garoppolo, so he will come into the lineup, and that would give them the projections boost as Justin Herbert is on a bye. Elsewhere, at the moment, Ezekiel Elliott is still in, but he is doubtful to play with his knee injury. Devontae Smith and Justin Jefferson come back in, though, in favour of AJ Dillon, and I think Pat may have dropped the other play that he played last week, but he's going with 20 personnel, 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, Pakistan are 2-6 against Ollie's team. So will this send the Winchester division into chaos, or will there finally be some clarity in the division, do you think, Chris?
I'm really not too sure here. I mean, this is the thing, is that from Ollie's point of view, you want to get right game at quarterback, and you go and put Matt Stafford, who's completely out of form, out of nick, and
against a Niners team that completely owns the Rams historically.
Indeed. So it doesn't start well, and it doesn't really get much better, to be honest, because I know Tyler Boyd's in there. He's going to be the second guy, perhaps, in that offense. I mean, he obviously had a great game last week. But yeah, so can they match up against Cleveland? Will Pittman have any worth now that his quarterback has changed?
Yeah.
So Brandon Cooks, that's it. There's talk of a trade, but again, ineffectual QB play. Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones perhaps are the strong points in this.
Aaron Jones has a brutal matchup, though.
But he has a brutal matchup.
Yeah.
That's exactly that, away from home, and that's a big question mark. So, and the Bears are playing Dallas, and again, they've been very good on D for fantasy purposes this year, I have to say, but playing Dallas is a completely different affair. So I'm trending that one down. With Pat, yes, Ezekiel probably won't play, but it doesn't really matter. I would love to see, a Wan'Dale Robinson or Garrett Wilson come in this week. It's very easy to come and sort of lean on guys you've used before. I wouldn't use AJ Dillon, of course, and Curtis Samuel is, I don't know. He could be a more integral part of the offense now. Heineke is involved, but yeah, you can't really go wrong with a Jimmy G at QB. We saw that last week. They're playing the Rams in LA is a little bit different with that defense, but yeah, they looked out of sorts, the Rams, this year, and I think they could probably exploit that. I do think that Jimmy G will probably hand off quite a lot this week, but he's a safe pair of hands. But I do like Adams, albeit the matchup is more difficult. He's going to come across that secondary, but it's not as stout as it once was.
I think Lattimore might not be playing still as well.
Exactly.
He's been missing time recently, so yeah, if he's out, it's a big boon for Devontae Adams.
Yeah, they've been in a bit of a funk, but then New Orleans have been in been in games where they've been wild offensive games this year. We saw that against Seattle and the like. So yeah, that's a plus. I think Justin Jefferson coming back is a plus. So there is absolutely no doubt in his quality, and Devonta Smith down the bottom there against Pittsburgh, who've been shredded on the secondary. Coming off a bye, he's gonna be fresh. I like it. Colts versus Washington as well, but Benjamin's the one I want to kind of bring up here, in the sense that when he's got touchdowns, he's got yardage. There's no threat of Connor coming back this week. I think that he's locked in to start again, and through all of the things that Elliott has done well, and the volume that he's going to have. I think that Benjamin comes in as his number one running back this week and will churn out the yards. But I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game by any means. I think Pat's going to win it, but yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle from the start for Ollie.
Yeah, no, I'm going with Pat in this one as well. You look at your Gold's team outside of Dalvin Cook, I just don't know where the points are going to come from, and that's not something you want to see. With none of your players having played yet. Whereas for Pakistan, like you say, Adams, he's had a bad case of flu, but I think he's going to be fine come Sunday, and he has such a big target share on that offense that he's got such a floor. There's enough star talent there, an opportunity with all those guys. Like you say, Elliott will go out of the lineup, and someone will come in who's less sturdy, but I don't think it matters too much for Pakistan as long as Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't completely face plant, which isn't what he does. Pat did have Andy Dalton earlier in the week, and I really rated that because I'm streaming him in another league against the Raiders. He's decided to go with Garoppolo as the more middling option, which is obviously the route I took last week as well. But he does have that steady floor, which probably, to be fair to Pat, he's thinking, all I need to have to beat you are gold. So that's fair enough. So yeah, I'm going with Pat that as well. We'll go on to our next game then. So we move on to the Portsmouth division with Gridiron Gang against Pedednators. Portsmouth division leading Gridiron Gang carrying a 3-game win streak and a 5-2 record. Face off against the Detonators, who are 4-3, hot on the heels, and have obviously turned things around of late. They are projected to make this division very interesting, as they are projected with the win hit, 98 points to 92. Starting off with the Detonators side of the board, DeAndre Hopkins comes into the lineup for the first time this season. Derrick Henry comes back off of his bye. Dante Foreman comes in favour of all those in favour of CeeDee Lamb, Chuba Hubbard, and obviously Bruce Hall is no longer on the roster. So, but Detonators going with the 30 personnel here, 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers. For Gridiron Gang, Josh Allen comes back into the lineup as he comes back from his bye. The only other change, a couple of changes there. Travis Kelce, he goes onto his bye, so Terry McLaurin comes in. Alan Lazard, who will miss the game, he has now been ruled out for Sunday. He takes the bench for none other than Taysom Hill. It's happening, people. So Gridiron Gang going with the 31 personnel, if you can call it 31, with Taysom Hill being the tight end, the 1 tight end and the 3 running backs. The history of this matchup all the time, Gridiron Gang are 5-11 against the Detonators. I can't quite believe I'm playing Taysom Hill, but there we are, Chris. So can the Detonators make the Portsmouth division interesting? Even more interesting?
I really do. I think outside of Gino, who he definitely is a very polarizing figure, depending on what you believe. He could put up from some reasonably solid numbers this week, but I think that Ollie's skill positions are extremely interesting. I think when you consider the fact that all of them are either clear-cut number 1 receivers or indeed running backs with a clear backfield and absolutely no one to challenge them, makes this for a very, very, very exciting game. And, you look at Hopkins, Olave, good matchups. Henry, good matchup. Foreman, excellent matchup. Etienne, not a great matchup, but is in London. We know the Jags play significantly better here than they do in the States. Yeah. Plus, the Cowboys D is playing Chicago. And I think Justin Fields is going to be running around a lot. You know, he's going to be running for his life. So he's going to see a lot of that. A lot of that Cowboys D this week. So I absolutely love that team. Just everywhere you go. As for yours, you get Josh Allen back, which is great. You get a lovely matchup for him. Plus the Eagles, you get a good matchup against the Steelers as well on defense. But there's a lot of hit and hope, cross your fingers and get across the line kind of guys. You know, Robinson's been good, and McLaurin was decent last week with Heineke coming back in. But can you trust that Washington offense away from home? It's very different, very, very different.
Yeah.
Then you got them at away to Cleveland. Cleveland are very good against the run, or at least they have been recently. And then Kenneth Walker, he's going to get plenty of looks again. So I think you're going to have to hang your hat on him offensively. And who knows what Taysom Hill will do? Will he be the QB? Will he be the running back? Will he just go and do all sorts of stuff? He could score 0 points, or he could score 35 points. We've seen it happen. So you have to roll the dice this week. You're playing against a formidable opposition. I think Ollie's going to win this game. But I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I pick Ollie's team as well. Like you say, it's just a good week in terms of some matchups, and then in terms of his players' opportunity. It's been a bit of a slow burner team, but it's definitely the fruit is born from it now. Like you said, with all those players, and as you say, for my team, I'm in a bit of a quandary when you look to my bench. Obviously Kelsey's on a bye. I was hoping Michael Thomas would be back for this one. He's out, and then obviously Lazard got injured last week as well, otherwise he no doubt would be in my lineup as well. And like you say, it's going to be Josh Allen, Eagles D to probably get, and probably Kenneth Walker as well. I hope some of those other guys can chip in some points, and then as you say, I kind of look at the waiver wire right now, like Hill could change if there's a rule out or something like a clear good stream there. Otherwise it's exactly as you said. I'd rather just roll out Taysom Hill, ride that roller coaster and see if he has one of those boom days, which again with Thomas and Landry out, and potentially Javon James, who's was the tight end. I think he picked up a hamstring injury in training. Troutman's out as well. He might actually be playing tight end this week for how the Saints look at the moment. So as you say, just cross my fingers and see where we go with that. Both pick Ollie in that one. Injury-wise in that game, so just to cover that off. And then I'll go. I think I didn't do that for your Golden Pat Stan as well, so I'll go back and cover that one. So Michael Thomas, he's been ruled as out with that toe injury. And Lazard ruled as out with his shoulder. Everyone else on by there for Gridiron Gang. Chuba Hubbard ruled out for Badetnators, which is big because his backfield mate Dante Foreman just happens to be on the roster and in Ollie's starting lineup as well. Going back to your Golden Pat Stan injury wise. Corey Davis has already been ruled out for your goal. That's the only injury for them. And then for Pakistan, we already mentioned about Ezekiel. He probably won't play with this knee injury, and Adam should play despite having the flu this week. We'll go on to our next game then, which is Ixan against Ben Acesti. So we're dipping into the Southampton division. Still undefeated, Ixan at 7-0 take on Ben Acestis at 4-3, who are still the highest scoring team, so this probably is the hardest test Ixan will have faced so far this season, and it does look like they're facing an uphill battle here because Ben Acestis is projected to win 93-64, and Ixan's already had some players play as well, 45-14 even. In favour of Ben Acesti, so we'll start on that side of the board. 26 points for Lamar Jackson, 8 points for Chris Godwin, and 12 for Leonard Fournette on First Night Football. Elsewhere, in terms of lineup changes, Devin Singletary and AJ Brown come to the lineup from bye. Austin Eckler goes onto his bye and onto the bench, and then Darnell Mooney goes to the bench as well. So, but Ben Acesti's going with 30 personnel this week, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for Ixan, they are without Mahomes this week who was on a bye, so they are rolling with Daniel Jones for now. And elsewhere, no other lineup changes, I believe. So those 14 points courtesy of Justin Tucker, 9, and the Ravens do 5. However, the projection will go up. James Conner has been ruled out, but he's in the lineup at the moment. The history of this matchup all time, Ben Acestis are 4-12 against Ixan. That is a mighty bad record. I was not expecting to see that. But is this the week that Ixan finally loses a game, Chris?
I think it might be. I think the wheels will come off the wagon this week for Ben. It's unlikely Debo's going to play, and it's obviously we know that Connor's not going to play. this week either. So we're going to assume that Reynolds and Lockett come into the team for the purposes of this. I still don't like it. Yes, we're going to see what this is going to be like without Mahomes playing. Daniel Jones is an interesting stream. He was playing Seattle away. He comes off an excellent fantasy week last week. And don't forget, Daniel Jones can really, really use his legs.
He can, but he hasn't so far. I say he hasn't. He's had a game of 79 yards, 68 yards. Obviously had 107 last week. But last week was he went over 22 points for the first time in that week last season. And he's only gone over 23 times so far this season. And 2 of those only just did that. So like you say, I think it's an interesting stream. It's not the highest upside one, I think it's fair to say.
It certainly isn't.
I wonder if he goes Andy Dalton now that Pat's dropped him as well, potentially.
It's possible. I don't know. Can you pick him up again?
Let's take a look. I think Pat dropped him. It was either today or yesterday. So I think that it's usually a 2-day clearing. So I believe, 30th of October. So yeah, Ben would be able to add him on Sunday. So if so, he would choose.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see where he goes. I think that he'll go with that because he sees the upside in that dual threat.
Oh yeah, the legs give him the floor completely. Yeah.
Yeah, I really do. But yeah, I think across the board, then you've got Gordon's in a good matchup on paper, but yes, it's going to be the Broncos. I don't know if it's not staying on the first, but it's the first for a while. Trip to Wembley. I said you were there last time.
Yeah, I sure was. I think I think it was Carl Orton maybe playing the last time. I can't quite remember.
It was a while ago. That is for sure. But yeah, it's that is to me the only plus matchup that I can see in there. I think everybody, and if Reynolds plays against the Dolphins as well at home, that's good for Detroit. But Ben's been very reliant on his kicker and special teams and his quarterback sort of bailing them out of weeks, especially when the skill players are down. I just don't. Although Lockett might be the number one receiver in that offense, I just don't see it. Whilst on the other side, I could very well see AJ Brown going for big numbers, Singletary being used a lot, and Pierce being used all the time against the Titans. Plus the fact that the 49ers are playing LA with Stafford in a funk. And the points lead that he already has. I just think Ben Necessities are going to win this game. They've been very strong all year. This is arguably the strongest team that XN have come against. And yeah, I just don't see it, especially with what can only be described as a little bit of a mess injury-wise from starting guys on their team. So yeah, if Lockett, Reynolds, or even Antonio Gibson maybe comes in, I still don't like that either because he's in a split backfield. So yeah, better sessions to win, Ixan to lose, but a very solid 7-0 effort if it all gets extinguished this week.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah, it's definitely the right week to catch Ben. I think, as you say, between the injury issues and the buys, my dad obviously has been the highest scoring team as well. The down week last week, but looks good value to get back on form this week. I'm going with bare necessities as well. I think it'll probably be Gibson and Lockett. Ben would bring in just a hunch because Reynolds, he would come in if Amon-Ra sits, but I think by the sounds of it, he should be back. So that probably, and Gibson's actually been better measure for Brian Robinson taking it. I mentioned it in the recap of one of the other games. He's been better measure for it, and in the game against the Colts, maybe he's that kind of player that gets those touches, those valuable touches as well. So we'll see. But yeah, as you say, not really going to matter. I think bare necessity is an easy one for this week. Deebo Samuel, as you said, he's going to miss this one with a hamstring injury. Hasn't practiced at all this week. James Conner already ruled out. Bench wise, I think Reynolds has got an injury issue as well, but he'll be good to go, I think. And then on bare necessity side, a clean bill of health, which seems to be a rare thing among fantasy teams at the moment in our league at least. So we'll go on to the next game then, which is the other Southampton division matchup featuring it is bucking the trend against Neapolitans, and I will have my jingle. Here it is. Bucking the trend at 5-2, looking to keep the pressure on Ixan. Meanwhile, Neapolitans at 2-5, facing an uphill battle, but all is not lost quite yet, but they haven't had a full game losing streak. They'll be looking to turn it around here. Projections say they won't. It's very close though, 88.14 to 87.82 in favour of bucking the trend. Bucking the trend has 5 points on the board, courtesy of the Bucks D already as well. Not really sure where they've played them, but there we are. In terms of other player changes, so I think Deontay Johnson comes into the lineup as does DeAndre Swift, sending probably Michael Gallup and Romeo Dobbs to the bench, I think, yeah. So they are rolling with the 30 personnel this week, 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers. Meanwhile, for Napolitans, Jalen Hurts comes back into the lineup from bye, sending Derek Carr to the bench. And other than that, I think Dave's team is unchanged, so he's still going with the 20 personnel, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, let's see, bucking the trend are 1-1 against Napolitans, so the winner takes the lead in the series. Chris, who will win this one?
Well, I'm going to caveat this with the fact that if Emma Russell Brown and Josh Jacobs do not play, then bucking the trend will not win. They have no path, because you would have to then play Gallup and Dobbs, both in not great matchups, and Darren Waller's not nice, to be honest. He's well out. So, yeah, he's going to have Swift back. Yes, good matchup. Barkley's in a good matchup, and Tua's in an excellent matchup. But yeah, it's if those two guys are out, if they're in, yeah, I like it. I can't deny.
I think they'll both play. From what I've seen, Emmerich has been making good progress in the concussion protocol, and then Jacobs a bit with the foot. I've not seen anything that's really suggested he's in any danger of missing the game.
No. So yeah. let's say they do play. Well, they both got good matchups. I think that the running backs there are all in excellent form, all in plus matchups, as I say, and as is anyone right. But the fact of the matter is that on the other side, you just got guys. Jalen Hurts plus matchup, Tyreek plus matchup. T. Higgins is going to see a massive uptick in targets. Christian Kirk playing at Wembley. Yeah, stout defense, but so he's really the only viable guy to throw to, and he's been the guy who's going to do it if there's going to be anybody this year. Ramondre Stevenson is clearly the number one guy in New England now, playing against the Jets, and Najee Harris. Well, that's it. All else fails, it's going to go through him, and they've certainly upped his usage in the last 2 weeks. So even if he scores, high single figures or even low double figures in that, I know they're playing Philadelphia, and there could be some garbage time in there as well. So yeah, the Dolphins D against Detroit. Detroit, they might be mugs, but they're not mugs at home, and you've seen them shred apart. Yeah, better teams than that at home this year. So it is puzzling why he continues to roll out the Dolphins D. It is. I agree. So yeah, there's absolutely a chance for Mike, and I think that those 3 running backs are the key to the win here. But Tua's going to throw to Tyreek. Tyreek's on the other side. That sort of nullifies that a little bit. And Napolitans have just been the team that's been better recently. I know Mike's been winning, but he's been winning in low-scoring games, whilst Napolitans have been significantly better and have an equal, shall we say, chance here, I think, or better, because of the nature of the fact that they've got an informed QB, which has got a solid floor, who's gone off a lot this year, 2 solid receivers that are number 1 receivers, and Ramondre Stevenson, who is undoubtedly number 1 running back, and is going to get plenty of usage in that fixture. Yeah. Sorry, did you have something else? That's it. No, Dave Henderson's a win for me. Yeah. Me as well. I think, I could still see Mike putting up a decent score, because, as you say, he has got guys like Barkley, Jacobs, Swift, Emma St. Brown, Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, that's a clear route to lots of points right there, potentially. But you look at the other side of the world, you mentioned that sometimes we see these really good teams on paper and it doesn't quite click. Bucking the trend is 5-2, but as you say, they've had some fortunate wins here and there. Napolitans has kind of been the other side of that. They've had some decent turnouts, but just haven't had the wins follow. This week profiles to be one of the weeks where it does kind of come together and they get the win. It could be a close one completely, but I'm going to lean slightly with Napolitans as well. So we've picked all of the same games so far. And injury-wise for this one, so Emma St. Brown should play with the concussion. He should be cleared by then. Josh Jacobs should play despite the foot injury. Darren Waller questionable with the hamstring that he's had for a few weeks. He has been practicing on a limited basis, so he could possibly play in this one. And then for Napolitans, only Jahan Dotson injured, and he's already been ruled out with his hamstring injury. So we'll go on to the last game of the week then. Coming back to the Portsmouth division, it's Forge Flies against the Dream Team.
Forge Flyers with the opportunity to potentially retake the Portsmouth the lead anyway of the Portsmouth division this week. Meanwhile, the Dream Team looking to keep the wins going to bring them closer to the lead in the division. Forge Flyers 5-2 against the 3-4 Dream Team. Projections have this one going Forge Flyers' way, 87-81. Looking down the lineups for Forge Flyers, so Latavius Murray comes into the lineup. I believe that is the only change for you, Chris. Sending... I'm not sure who was it. He dropped the guy that went to the.
Kenyon Drake left.
Yeah, he's gone. He's gone.
Yep.
He's gone. Everyone else is still there, and you are going with the 30 personnel this week. 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for the Dream Team, Stephon Diggs comes back from bye. Gus Edwards did come into the lineup. Darrell Henderson back from bye as well. So they are going with the 30 personnel. Also 3 running backs, 2 receivers. 6.5 points courtesy of Gus Edwards, but he did get injured in that game last night. Mike Williams to the bench and Jamar Chase as well, obviously, with their respective injuries. The history of this game all time, Forge Flyers are 6-7 against the Dream Team. Chris, how do you fancy your chances this week?
Well, I always have good games against Viv, I have to say, but this week, see, he's got 6.5 points on the board, I see Gus Edwards. He came up the traps well and then gets injured again, which is pretty much the story of his career, is it not?
More or less.
So yeah, it's a reasonable start. Nothing to sort of burn the house down here. Darrell Henderson's in there as well. We said earlier he's a bit banged up, but should play. Interesting that he drops Jerry Jeudy just out of pure spite, playing at Wembley against the Jags. It's one of those great things. I mean, I know that he's been on the trade block and the QB is just not where it is, but. Everyone needs a safety blanket, and he's the Broncos safety blanket. So I'm surprised he's not playing him. But you can't really go wrong with the rest of the matchups there. I think Cleveland. I mean, Joe Burrow we saw scored massive points last week. But the one thing that Cleveland can say is that they can get to the QB. We know that Cincinnati's O-line has not been that great.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think they've been better recently, clearly. But, so we've seen him go for big points against New Orleans, who've been struggling, and Atlanta, who've definitely been struggling. So far, this season, Burrow's coming up against Pittsburgh, the Jets, Miami, Baltimore, New Orleans, and Atlanta. All of them have one thing in common, is that they don't have very good secondaries. And the one team that he did come up against that had at least a credible defense, which was Dallas Cowboys, and they scored 17 points. So that's it. We'll see about that one, but I think Diggs and DJ Moore are on for good days. Tony Pollard's on for a great day because he's going to get all the volume.
Yeah.
And the Bills D, who've been excellent throughout the course of the year, have a chance at getting to Aaron Rodgers, which let's be honest, every defense wants to sack Aaron Rodgers. On the other side, yes, my team is still there. It's still carrying on trucking, but it's been 2 down weeks, and we've been very lucky to get to that position where we are. Really, I like Kyler in this matchup, but I can't trust him. I'd love to be able to say I can trust him, but the last 3 weeks have been average at best. So hopefully he can get back to a semblance of some sort of decent QB play, especially with Hopkins being back now and being back firing all cylinders.
It's quite incredible. He's not, for a guy like Kyler, you expect a bit of a boom or bust nature. He's had a tinge of the bit bust, I suppose. 12 points, 14-point weeks being the 2 low points. But yeah, he's not shown that upside so far that you traditionally think of. The highest outing so far this season, 28 points.
Exactly. They've really limited his running ability this year. So trying to play like a pocket quarterback, it just isn't working. So they've got to try something different. Allow him to be who he is.
Definitely, yeah.
That's his key. That's his key threat is on the ground. So let him do it. Please let him do it. Sutton and Waddle have excellent matchups. As does Latavius Murray. I'm just hoping for a touchdown there. We've seen in the last few weeks how they haven't really trusted Melvin Gordon. We've seen Javonte go down. Latavius Murray isn't. Did I see Did Mike Boone? Something happened to Mike Boone this week?
No, Mike Boone. I think he picked up a high ankle sprain or something.
There you go. So Mike Boone isn't a factor. So, yeah, I'm hoping that Murray will become more of a factor. And then Kamara and Chubb have been the real MVP of my team over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Chubb's got a difficult matchup there, but he's going to have plenty of volume.
Mm-hmm.
And it is prime time on Monday night. So that's what we like to see. Broncos playing Jags tomorrow as well. I know that the Jags do up their game in London, but the Broncos are a stout defense.
Oh, they sure are. Yep.
I hope that they'll show Trevor Lawrence really what a difficult matchup is. So yeah, I like it. Do I like my team? Absolutely, I like my team. Do I like the fact that Burrow and Diggs and Moore and Tony Pollard is playing on the same kind of team and the Bills D on the side? I'd like that as well. Viv and I usually have good games, but I'm going to back and lock myself because I've been told I need to back myself more, so I'm going to do it.
Good. That's what I like to hear. Yeah, good. Yeah, got to believe in yourself. And yeah, it's a really close game for me as well. I think there's both. I think you're probably a bit more. You've got the more top-heavy side of things with Chubb, Kamara. Sutton can have good days. Waddle, certainly, he's exploded at times. Whereas I just feel the Dream Team's a little stronger there, top to bottom. There's not really one player I look there at the moment and think. I think probably the weakest point is Darrell Henderson, and when your weakest point is the starting running back for a team who's going to get the majority of the touches. That's a pretty good position to be in. I think it's changed a fair bit despite the injuries. Obviously, PJ Walker's done wonders for DJ Moore and things. And yeah, we don't, as you say, we don't really know what we're going to see from Joe Burrow without Jamar Chase. How much that affects him. I'm just going to lean with the Dream Team this week, just because I think there's the more solid top to bottom element. That there's a few trap things on your team which might not work. If they do, I think you'll probably walk to victory, as I say, with the other stud guys you've got there. But yeah, just gonna lean with Viv's team for me. Injury-wise in this one, so yeah, Gus Edwards did suffer a hamstring injury in last night's game after getting that 6.5 points. Darrell Henderson is questionable. I can't remember what his issues he has, but he should play. Mike Williams on a bye, but obviously would have been out with the high ankle sprain anyway, and yeah, Jamar Chase out with that hip injury. For you, Chris, Cam Akers already been ruled out with his trade demand or whatever it is that's keeping him away from the team.
Strange.
Who knows? And that's it for that. So that is all of the Week 8 games previewed. So there we go. As you mentioned, Chris, it is a London game this weekend, so I will be at the game. So yeah, you obviously, if you would like to do so, you're welcome to watch the games of mine from about 8:30 or so. I'll let you know when I'll be back. If you would like to, obviously the clocks go back, so we do not have to stay up as late this week, which is quite nice, isn't it, Chris? Always that nice for that 1 week of the year where the games don't go on for quite so long.
They should keep it as it is. That's it. We should be closer to America now, That's it. It helps us out.
Absolutely. So yeah, other than that, thank you for watching the show. Thank you for joining us, Chris.
You're very welcome. It's been good to be here.
Yeah, hope you have a great weekend. Good luck in your matchups, unless you're playing me, of course. Goodbye.